Welcome to the Business Mechanics Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, co-founder of Results-Driven Leadership. Got a great topic for you today. We're going to talk about the vital aspect of leadership that I think is often overlooked. I think we talk about this topic, but not in the way I'm going to share it with you today. The power of owning your own mistakes. Your own mistakes as a leader, your own mistakes as a manager, and taking responsibility for your team's errors as well. So we're going to talk about your team's mistakes, your mistakes, the importance and the impact of you owning those, the example it sets, and how it affects your leaderships. Because as leaders, it is so easy to allow our egos to get in the way of good judgment. We're always protecting our self-esteem. That is a powerful force we all possess, is our self-esteems. However, really effective leaders, true leaders, understand that accountability is non-negotiable. It means, to the great leaders, accepting responsibility for personal and team actions, regardless of success or failure. And this mindset is not only crucial for your personal growth, but also for fostering team spirit, promoting respect, and propelling not only your career advancement, but your team's career advancement. Because think about it. You set the tone. You set the example. And if you lead through your level of self-accountability and you surround yourself with a team and they understand that is the standard for which they must operate, they're going to carry it on to the next level. And also, by the way, if you're in any company of any kind of size, those are the individuals that are going to get noticed, they're going to get recognized, they're going to be highly valuable individuals. And you're going to have had a major influence on their success through you setting the right example. Now let's talk about mistakes. And I'm going to pause just for a second. I need to say this soon, so I'm going to say it now. I was not a great example of this early in my career. I, to this day, have to catch myself, redirect myself when things go wrong. I, like many of you listening to this show today, it is our human nature to, when things go wrong, blame it on someone else. And it is super important that you're aware of that. You own that, you're accountable for that, and you catch it before it comes out of your mouth. You need to process it for a second and make sure you own it. I was very well liked by my bosses throughout my career because when things went wrong, I said, "You're right, I'll take care of it, won't happen again," and move on. I didn't argue, I didn't defend, I didn't blame. I owned it and I moved on. Internally, sometimes I struggled with that, but I knew it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to show my boss that. It advanced my career, and it was also the right thing to show my team members that and help them understand how important that is. So making mistakes, and I made plenty of them. Believe me, I don't know that I've had a perfect day yet. Mistakes are a natural part of being a human. But mistakes are also very positive in a roundabout way because they serve as a catalyst for growth. And when we acknowledge our missteps, we show that we're not above errors. We're human just like everybody else. And believe me, if you blame it on somebody else, and it really fell on your shoulders to some degree. It erodes your leadership authority. People look down upon you when you start blaming things, especially on your team. Because guess who's responsible for everything that goes on with your team, both success and failure? And that's you, their leader. And the fact that we're learners and we're constantly evolving, and you tie in this authenticity, and I've talked about that in other podcasts, how important it is to be an authentic leader. And this is the crux of that. It makes you so much more relatable. It makes you so much more approachable. Your team will trust you more. It creates an openness where employees feel comfortable sharing challenges, ideas, and often they'll even share their own mistakes. And I challenge anybody that has known me, worked with me in the past, back in my corporate life, they all know that when Vaughn walked into the building, I became the Pied Piper. I talked to everybody. And you know why I talked to everybody? They wanted to talk to me. I fostered that kind of openness. And if they told me something, and they told me to keep it quiet between us, I did it. But mostly they brought to me things that were bothering them, challenging them, things that needed to be fixed. And by God, I took care of it. And that alone, I took care of it usually on the spot. I'd pick up the phone and I'd knock it out, or we'd go solve it or start the solution to it immediately. That's being accountable. Now back to mistakes. Taking responsibility of your team's mistakes. When you become that filter, that barrier, they already feel bad. Badly? Bad? What's the proper English? Somebody tell me. I'll use my Southernese. Taking responsibility of your team's mistakes. When they see you taking the bullet for them, it elevates your leadership. They respect you more. If you divert that blame to somebody else, it erodes your leadership. Hard to do. Back to that self-esteem. We want to protect ourselves. You got to get yourself past that. And if I can do it, because believe me, I've got a very healthy ego. I would put my ego up against just about anybody's. It's your ability to control it. And I don't control it all the time. But in the case when it came to the people who worked with me, around me, I learned to do a superior job, not a perfect job. I was never perfect. And again, I've not had a perfect day in my life. But if you take responsibility for things, you own it, you learn from it, you take the proper steps to make sure it doesn't happen again, or you course correct to make sure the next time it comes out with a better outcome. By doing so, you're supporting and protecting your team. That is a huge role of the leader. That goes back to the creation of humans. Whatever your beliefs are, where we came from. When we were small tribes, the leader was always the one that protected the tribe. And that was and they became the natural leader because they were the ones who protected the village. It's the same thing today. When you protect them, you stand up for them, you take the blame for them. And you're just going to elevate yourself in the way of respect. They're going to trust you. And that trust is the most important bond you can have. In order to be trusted, you have to grant trust. One of the easiest ways to do it is what we're talking about today. Creating a collective sense of responsibility and teamwork for both success and failures. Because when it goes wrong, we need to figure out how to go fix it, but it's your fault. And when we have success, you all made that happen. The team made that happen. And there'll be somebody in the crowd say, but you got us there. No, they did the hard work. They're the ones that got you there. Now, let's start exploring how owning mistakes contributes to your leadership development, your increased respect, and most importantly, what I mentioned earlier, your career advancement. Because here's, I don't know, 4 things off the top of my head. It's leadership development. And understand that word development, because effective leaders are not created overnight. They're generally not born. They have a propensity to it, or they have a desire to learn how to be one, but you have to understand the steps. And I'm telling you, I wanted to be a leader since 5th grade. I think 5th grade when I first ran for class office. I always wanted to lead people. I had a drive to do that. And I've been learning how to be an effective leader since then. I'm still learning. I'm going to continue to learn, just like you. But great leaders are developed over time by consistently demonstrating attributes like integrity, humility, resilience, and what we're talking about today, owning your mistakes. When you do that, you showcase your ability to reflect, learn, grow from your errors. Because it's okay to make mistakes. We're not perfect. Make mistakes. Dust yourself off, learn from it. Because that creates a culture of continuous learning and improvement. And like I mentioned earlier, it also increases the level of respect you have. Because leaders who take responsibility for their mistakes, they earn respect from their team members. And when you are earning that kind of respect, you can lead people to higher levels. They'll be motivated. They'll be motivated to be successful for you. Because remember, as I always say, people work for people. They don't work for companies. This whole concept of being authentic and owning your mistakes demonstrates honesty, courage, fairness, all qualities that are highly valued. And I don't care what industry you're in, what culture you're in. And it also shows competence. It shows that's where some people get in conflict with admitting mistakes or owning mistakes. Even if you really want the person that made the mistake, one of your team members made it, you've got to own it. That's going to make you more confident. I promise you. And by you doing that, you're going to get your team's commitment to supporting you in ways you never imagined. You're going to build loyalty, mutual respect, and very shared values, because this very much is a value. And from all that, because your team is so supportive of you, they're so motivated by you, you're going to get ahead. You're going to have career advancement. But also understand that career advancement is not about what you do. It's not about your personal accomplishments. It's about inspiring those around you and bringing the best out in others. And this is one of the most critical thoughts you must have. This is skills, thoughts, mindsets, is accountability. And when you take the blame for your team's mistakes, that shows a high level of emotional intelligence and super strong interpersonal skills. We hear about those all the time. It's the most desired and sought after elements of a leader in today's world is emotional intelligence and these strong interpersonal skills. Widely sought out. That's career advancement because it positions you as a leader who leads by example. Someone deserving of greater responsibility in larger teams. That's how I became a manager at 19 years old. That's how I became a district manager over 12 stores when I was 22 years old. That's how I became a regional vice president of a company at 25 years old. I recognized this. I adopted this. I embraced this, as if has every other effective leader. And if doesn't matter what age you are, you can change this at any time in your life. You can change the course. You just have to accept the change and go embrace it. And watch out for some of these mistakes. You have to be very clear in communication. Don't miscommunicate or hinder your team's progress. And if you miscommunicate, and you often do when things go wrong, take ownership for it. Learn from it. How can you be clearer next time? Remember, SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, the person responsible, time-bound. And then collaborate. Collaborate. Ask your team. Involve your team in open dialogue. Have them give you feedback. I'm going to share a story with you in just a second about how effective this is, because it's going to prevent future misunderstandings. And then you, again, setting your ego to the side. I know you know everything. I'm being a little facetious. But setting your ego aside, you've got to value their feedback. You've got to value their feedback. You've got to involve them. Include them. You don't know everything. And even if you do, let's say you do, you're one of the 1 in a million that knows everything. Go through the act of involving them, because it simply gets buy-in when they have a voice in the future. Then empower them. Empower your team. When you're micromanaging people to avoid mistakes, you're stifling creativity. I know you don't want to have mistakes. In certain individuals, the tendency is to micromanage. Big mistake on your part that will stymie not only your advancement, your team's advancement, but it's going to stymie the respect they have for you. As I've often said, I asked this question. In fact, I asked it in an interview this very morning. Tell me about the worst boss you ever had. And 90% of the time, the word micromanagement comes out. They were a micromanager. Nobody likes to be micromanaged. Why are you doing it? To protect yourself. I get it. But they're not going to learn anything. All they're going to learn is you know everything. And I don't think that's what you want. Admit it if you've been guilty of this behavior. And stop it. Apologize. And start expressing some trust in your team's ability. You will be shocked if and when you empower them, how great they really are. And if you keep telling them as a micromanager what to think, they'll never know how to think. They'll never develop these critical thinking skills. And I know so many micromanagers want to stay involved with every decision because they don't want mistakes, because, quote unquote, their team can't make decisions, or some variants of that. Well, they'll never be able to make good decisions, or bad decisions for that matter, because you don't allow them. Now think about including that feedback along with empowering your team. You bring all that together: collaboration, communication. You approach your day in, day out life in a team approach where everybody's voice can be heard and valued. Folks, that's powerful. And it's what the greatest leaders do. And I'm going to give you this example. It's been a while back. This big multi-billion-dollar publicly held aerospace company I was working with, still working with them. Thank you. I love them. I'm not going to name them. And the head of HR says, Vaughn, we need you to work with this team. Man, they're so dysfunctional. Super dysfunctional. And director of HR knew it was primarily due to the manager's lack of accountability. He, A, was a micromanager. B, when things went wrong, he got heated, hot, blamed it on people, pointed fingers. And the manager, to his credit, was well-meaning. I get it. He was trying to protect himself. He was trying to do a better job. Through blaming others and being loud, he thought that was the way to teach people, to punish people. We learn by punishment, damn it. No, we don't. And on top of all this, because he was a micromanager, and I say was a micromanager, he struggled mightily with collaboration because it was just faster for him to make the decision, tell everybody what to do, and move on. And that way there was no mistakes, but yet they still made mistakes. Why? Because they didn't understand what he wanted, or if something didn't go as planned like he wanted, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have these critical thinking skills. And more importantly, because he was directing everything, he was 100% owner of everything. When things went wrong, they didn't give a damn. They didn't care. So they didn't care about him. And this caused major frustration for the company, for the manager, and especially the employees. They had resentment. And I'll never forget the first meeting I had with this team, how these arms were crossed and people were making eye contact and looking away every time this manager spoke. Completely unmotivated this team was. And I would use not only dysfunctional, but they were in turmoil. And I love these kind of challenges. This is what I thrive on. They were missing deadlines, blowing budgets. Nothing was ever done on time. And it all came back to one person, this manager. He created all this dysfunction and poor performance, but he didn't know it. He was blaming it on his team, which is our natural human tendency. He was just being human. So recognizing the critical nature of this situation, because they asked me to get it fixed and get it fixed fast. I was brought in, get her fixed, Vaughn. First thing I did, one of the best team building exercises anybody can do, and I started with this one. DISC. So everybody take a DISC. Let's understand everybody's profile, communication styles, motivations. Let's talk about each other. Let's understand our preferences. That started bringing down the walls a little bit. There was some nodding of the heads and some understanding. And by the way, take notes on this. This is how you fix it, y'all. Next was a SWOT exercise. And if you're not familiar with SWOT, now that I've got everybody a little further down the lane of understanding, we do a SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as a team, just as a team. What's the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of just this team? We do this whole analysis. We do this whole exercise. And all of a sudden, because I'm facilitating and I know how to do this, I can draw the words out of people, all this stuff starts coming. I'm watching this manager. At first, he was a little offended, embarrassed, trying to hide from some of these things about what was causing the dysfunction under their weaknesses, why they couldn't make deadlines, stay under budget. They were real honest in their current situation because they had somebody they felt safe with, me, although the manager was sitting in the room. But guess what happened about 30 minutes into this? The manager starts getting into it. He starts admitting his mistakes. He's hearing these things. He's processing. All of a sudden, his eyes are open. He realizes, holy cow, I've been causing a lot of this. And it was the reality check. This exercise was the reality check for this manager. When he started hearing firsthand about his team's frustrations, their concerns. It was the first time he'd even asked, they'd ever been asked. And man, did they have a lot to share. And it became very evident that this team had a significant weakness by discommunication, being collaborative, talking with other, keeping everybody apprised of where projects stood, when to hand things off. They needed to open their communication. And man, did the ideas start flying. This was such an important turning point. I love to see this when it happens. Because in the middle of all this with this manager, man, he was really digging this. And all of a sudden, the team is empowered. The team is collectively deciding a better future, how to prioritize things, how to communicate with one another. They worked through a whole strategy. At the end of the SWOT exercise, they had homework. Okay, guys, what 2 or 3 things do you want to go work on from a strategic plan? How are you going to fix it? They took this topic that I'm talking about right now. I come back 2 weeks later, man, had they laid it out perfectly. They'd worked together. The manager facilitated it. And they all recognized the importance, especially this manager, of shared decision-making, shared decision-making. And the leverage that gives you when you've got this collective intelligence of the team. You can so efficiently problem solve this way. And then once you're solving the problems, your execution level goes way up. And now all he has to do is rinse and repeat. I encourage him to establish regular check-ins, catch himself in his micromanaging bad habits, create an environment of conducive, open communication, and to recognize their achievements and not point out every little mistake they made. And I share this story because it's one of the most miraculous I've ever experienced. Within a month, the transformation was simply remarkable. He was having daily meetings with his team to collaborate, almost like a Kaizen. In fact, it was a Kaizen. What went right? What do we need to improve on? He was listening to everybody, taking their ideas, implementing the ones that worked. It brought such value to the team. They had a whole new view of him. And all of a sudden, this team who did not care when things went wrong started taking ownership. They were interested in the numbers. They were interested in their idle time. They were interested in their non-productive time. They were interested in what their budget for production was that much. They were interested in quality and reworks. This was a manufacturing facility. It is a manufacturing facility. And all of a sudden, they're hitting their deadlines. First month, boom. Because this manager, through these exercises, and I just got the ball started, he took it and ran with it. He got the entire team's commitment and engagement, and it took a 180-degree turn for the better. We're really proud of that one, but that's how it works. May not be as easy as the one I just described, and I did not expect this one to be easy. Sometimes it takes months, but it doesn't take more than 2 or 3 months, I promise you. And all of a sudden, they'll start clicking if you create this pool of collective knowledge and intelligence and experience in your day-to-day life as a leader. And when things go wrong, learn from it, own it, move on. So acknowledge your mistakes. And sometimes, oftentimes, if you're listening to this, you realize you've been screwing the pooch. I need to do a much better job at this. Oftentimes you need to make an apology. Let your team, this is open dialogue, y'all. Let the team know that you recognize it, you're going to work on it, that you're not going to be perfect at it, but it's in your future. It's going to be a daily focus of yours to start increasing your credibility as a leader, that you're going to start taking responsibility solely for the mistakes. I'm owning my mistakes. I'm owning your mistakes, because your mistakes really are created by me. That's why you get paid more. And then to avoid them in the future, I'm going to create a very collaborative work environment. And I'm going to give you all the credit when it goes well. And I'm going to take all the blame when it goes bad. And if you make a mistake, they need to know that you're going to own it, that you're going to learn from it, you're going to fix it, and you're going to move on. They're going to love you. They're going to respect you, and they're going to want to work as hard as they possibly can for you. Because that's the role of a true leader. Leadership's not just a title. It's a commitment to guide, support, inspire your team to reach the highest potential possible. And it comes from you and their buy-in to you. And being authentic is a critical part of being a highly effective, results-driven manager. Your tone sets the tone for the team. Embrace your flaws and turn them into lessons. Learn from them. We all have our flaws. God knows I have mine. By doing that, you create an environment where everyone feels valued, trusted, and super motivated to excel. Sounds so simple, and it really is, but it's hard damn work, because I've got to change my nature, my tendencies, my habits. But it's going to enhance your leadership skills, and it's going to pave a way for a much brighter future career for you. And I hope you found this piece today, this podcast today, insightful. And if I can just get one person inspired of the thousands who listen to this every week, if I can just get one person inspired, man, you've made my day. You've made my life. This is what I do this for. And if I've inspired you, please let me know. Send me an email. Contact me through LinkedIn. Sign up for my newsletter. Make comments on it. Embrace this power of owning your mistakes. It's a major game changer for the level of respect your team's going to give you. The improvement in culture, the empowerment you give them. They'll be much more resilient, proud, and even when mistakes happen, and they will, they'll be able to learn from them and move on. So continue your learning and growing. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if that wasn't where your head was at. And remember this lesson from today's podcast: lead with authenticity. Thank you all so much for listening today. If you want more information on results-driven leadership's programs, visit our website, rdltraining.com, Romeo Delta Lima training.com. There's a link to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Please join. I send out all kinds of great information and tips and tools, and certainly you can benefit from all that. If you're a true learner, it's a great way to learn even more. So join us, share your comments. Please, if you like this podcast, share it with somebody, comment on it. There's a rating system on your platform. Please give us a rating. It helps us get heard by more people. And we'd appreciate that. I don't get paid for this. I do this for free because I love doing it. So until next week, everybody, I thank you all as always for listening. I look forward to hearing some feedback from everybody. And if I can ever help you, reach out. Keep up the good work, y'all.